Welcome to the Obvious Podcast, episode number 64. My name is Sonny Macon.
And I'm Peter Dyga, President and CEO at ABC Florida East Coast Chapter, and you're listening to the Obvious Podcast, where all opinions expressed are our own, unless we say otherwise. If you love the show, we ask you to subscribe on any major podcast platform or watch us in action on YouTube. Follow the Obvious Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, X, Truth Social. All the links you need are in the show notes. Reach out to us anytime at abceastflorida.com. And if you're enjoying the ride, help others find us by leaving a review wherever you listen. Well, Sonny, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Today's topic is going to be a little bit serious.
Bright and cheery.
Bright and cheery.
So
Yeah.
you can always count on us.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
Last week, what was it last week? Filibuster.
Right. Yep.
That was a good time. We actually did make a filibuster interesting. But today I wanted to talk to you about Nigeria. And I don't mean like, those emails from the prince trying to...
Is that Nigeria too?
That's Nigeria. But just the
And by the way, I mean, it's great that actually the situation has actually drawn some
attention?
Some attention because it's been a problem for a long time, and I see Nigeria as just a kind of one country where actually the problems are duplicated many times over.
Yep.
In the continent of Africa
and Asia and many other places,
Correct.
many other countries.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
So I don't know. It's unfortunate that in this day and age where communication is so simple,
Yeah.
sharing of information is so simple in news, but yet for some reason, certain issues just tend to have a hard time getting any kind of attraction, even when they're as super serious as, true genocide.
Yep.
But something's happened on that. I don't know.
You mean as opposed to the Blue Hair Brigade that's taken
Correct.
over college campuses?
Correct.
Those people?
Right.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting what breaks through the
Right.
zeitgeist, right? Like it's super
Very fascinating.
fascinating. Like what just
And I don't know what it was for this, but anyway, I'm grateful.
yeah. I can tell you what it was.
What do you think it was?
Bill Maher talking about it.
Well, for sure. And when you have somebody like Bill Maher talking about it, it's like, what the, right? I mean,
He's a atheist, right? Like not a Christian, says he's not a Christian, not a Republican, not a right winger, not a conservative,
right.
But an old school liberal.
His
right?
credentials, his bona fides are still strong as far as that goes. Now, I wonder how much longer that's going to last.
Yeah.
Because eventually they will whittle down his, but for now, when Bill Maher talks about these issues that you normally would not associate with an atheist or with a left of center person, it gets attention.
Yes.
It has people thinking, man, if he's talking about this,
So I went online because I wanted to play the clip for our audience from a show where he talked about the Nigerian
fascinating.
issue.
Actually.
So I saw, and it's so interesting. You see so much hatred that he gets from the left for just his words, right? Just for saying things, just for his ideas.
Right. I don't know. Was somebody else recently
Yeah.
receiving out of hatred for their words?
And it's like his to me, there's obviously a lot that I don't agree with Bill Maher on, but his classical liberal instincts to be for free speech, to be for...
We've talked about that in the past. It's very hard to find a true classical liberal anymore, which is why, by the way, I'm so conscientious about not calling them the left. There's nothing classically or liberal. There's nothing classically liberal about them or liberal about the left anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. Oh my gosh, it's changed so much.
Right. So truly, they're leftist. They're not liberals at all. And for many decades, we put a lot of effort into using terms conservative and liberal, but the irony is I think conservatives are much more classical liberal today, in terms of fighting for free speech, fighting for basic human rights, all of them, not just select ones.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. So, but in any event, let's watch this.
All right, I'm going to play this clip for you, what he said on the show, which sort of started this conversation.
if you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. And again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Yeah. Thank you. Because no one will talk about it, so thank you.
Absolutely.
It's Africa. That's why no one's talking about it, and they should be. You can't read about it in mainstream media. It's sad, so thank you for bringing it up.
Well, because the Jews aren't involved. That's why. It's the Christians and the Muslims. Who cares?
Way to call out the Blue Hair Brigade,
Right,
Like,
right.
Where are the kids protesting this?
Right.
And it's obviously not just the kids, but it's the media, right? Like, and
I mean, when he says, if you're not aware of this, you got sucky sources, he basically means the networks.
yeah,
I mean, I think CNN and ABC and
CNN,
NBC and CBS, they're not, so.
NPR doesn't talk about it,
Of course not.
right? I mean, there's a crisis and there's a oppression happening in every American institution, according to NPR. Everybody's out to
Right.
oppress and destroy and all that, but like this, they won't even touch.
Right.
And I would highly recommend you go back and watch our episode on the NPR CEO's congressional testimony, which is just a thing of beauty to watch.
I remember that.
Yeah. So in what I wanted to really talk about was obviously, I looked up Boko Haram and kind of what's happening, and they're trying to create an Islamist state in Nigeria, and obviously the pushback they're getting is from the Christians, so they're killing Christians. There have been some stories. I remember this happened during, I believe this happened during Barack Obama's time, where they kidnapped like a bunch of girls, like young girls,
Right.
preteens and
Right. The
teenagers.
first lady, I think, had some kind of a public campaign or effort
to try
for
to
the girls that were kidnapped from.
bring the girls back or something like
Right.
that. I
Yep.
remember.
Yep.
That was Boko Haram as well.
Yep.
So, it's ongoing. They're blowing up churches. They've killed hundreds of thousands of Christians.
Right.
And the left, and really, I mean, the right too, but the left really is just ignoring it, especially the media is ignoring it. So he brings it up. Then, of course, I started doing some research. Trump had tried to address this issue in his first term.
Correct.
Remember that?
Yeah. He had some kind of, was trying to draw attention to it, had some kind of special designation, I think,
Yeah,
for the
country.
projects going over there. And I don't know exactly what that entailed. But then I think, again, it makes you wonder. The Biden administration comes in and apparently revokes.
Yeah,
which
that's what I
makes
wanted
no
to talk
sense.
about.
I mean,
Yeah.
was the problem solved? Were people not being killed? I mean, it just really makes you go, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
do you really?
Now, this goes to prove, though, that, drawing attention to a problem like this and other problems around the world is important, because even though you had an administration that, had taken some action in their first administration,
Yeah.
they didn't do it in their first 90 days or their first 180 days. It took some public attention for them to realize, hey, we needed to, I think, do what we did, the same thing we did in the first administration, and draw some attention to this problem. So,
Country of particular concern, CPC.
okay, and I'm sure that probably entails all sorts of, economic,
Exactly. Economic measures, some
right,
sanctions,
right,
things like that. And then the U.S. under Trump 1 designated this country. Here comes Biden.
no
Biden's
particular
decision.
concern apparently. For the Biden
No, not only did they remove it, they said, "Oh no, it has nothing to do with Christianity." And I had to ended up reading about this. It had nothing to do with Christianity. It was a land dispute and a dispute caused by global warming, environmental issues.
Right. So okay to kill for apparently land and
I mean, it's just
burn churches.
I feel
for
like
land.
every and this is it's fine. You can bleep it out. Every issue that has to do with right and wrong, the Biden administration picked the wrong side.
Right.
Every damn time.
That's because they were leftist activists running that auto pen.
Yeah, he wasn't running it. He had no
running
idea.
that administration. It was a bunch of young leftist activists running that administration, the kind that were elected in New York City and unfortunately, I mean, that's who was running that administration, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this idiot in New York, right? The mayor. Remember that whole debacle with his aunt who apparently felt uncomfortable riding the subway? And that was the great tragedy.
Didn't even live in the country.
Right?
Didn't even live in the country at the time, right? She was
she didn't live in the country. It wasn't.
she was off in Nigeria or somewhere.
Right. And then he was, oh, no, it was I mean, it's a made up story. Obviously, there's no such person, but it was like a dead cousin. And I just used
Everything about the left is a lie. Everything.
It's unbelievable.
How many times have I said, if you want to know what the left's doing, ask what they're accusing you of. Mm-hmm.
But this persecution of Christians, right? It's happening in China. It's happening in Nigeria. It's happening in many places around the world. And
it's a shame that we don't actually. Well, maybe you do, but that I don't know the data any better than we do.
Yeah.
But I'm confident enough to say that there's no more persecuted religion in the world today in terms of people, just because we don't see it in the West so much.
Yeah.
So much.
Well, we will too.
We will, and it's coming. It's coming in some places like England and
Canada.
But it's a global issue. Persecution and killing and burning of churches and
I bet you it's going to be in Minneapolis soon. They got a crazy wacko mayor there. So look, the persecution is happening. We're not gonna solve anything in terms of what the Boko Haram people do. But I don't understand the left's contempt for this specific religion, right? Everything else is cool. Just this isn't. Well, Jews. They're also not cool with Jews. But the idea of Judaism,
religious Jews, religious Jews, cultural Judaism,
they're okay with that.
But if you actually take your faith seriously, it's actually, they got a problem with it.
They got a problem with that, and it's just so strange to me. Right? Like I remember during the first Gulf War,
either.
The Gulf War had broken out already. So this is 90s, right? Early 90s. Mm-hmm. There's a press conference in Israel, and there's a Israeli minister, and he's got a map of the Middle East, kind of a blown-up version of it, standing in front of it. And he's like, look at all of these Muslim countries in this area.
Right.
And he's like, it was like literally the size of his nail, and he's like, this is us. Right. This is the only sort of, Western-style democracy here, and this is what they're trying to end.
Right.
And you look at it, you look at the scale of that, and you look at that whole issue, and it's so sad, right? Because I think part of the problem is really that it's Africa, right? Like most of the media.
What do we know about anything about Africa?
Most of the media doesn't give a shit, right?
Sure.
And I remember as a kid, "We Are the World." Remember that the song coming out?
Sure.
And it's like, oh, we're going to do this for Africa, and we're going to do that for Africa. Mm-hmm. Where did all that money go? Like all these billions and billions and billions of dollars that have gone have done nothing. Like people are still living terribly difficult lives in most of, not all of Africa, but in most of Africa. And there's some examples of some economies that have kind of really taken off because they've subscribed to capitalism and they've tried to clamp down corruption. But that is not the majority of the countries on the continent. And when you have stuff like this, with Boko Haram.
But what is going on with Bill Maher? That's just, kudos to him, right? For being more informed and then not just being aware of it, but talking about it. And whether it's this issue, you could probably point to a whole host of other issues. And by the way, I'm not predicting or making any, but every person who's ever had changes of heart or thoughts in their life, it's a process.
Yep.
And I don't know. I could just pray for him. That he may be on some kind of a journey. Who knows where it'll wind up? Right? Because there's something very odd about the different issues that he seems to be calling out. The quote unquote left.
Would you say it's wisdom? It's old age, like wisdom of old age, or would you say it's
I don't know,
something else?
Old age definitely helps.
Yeah,
as long as you're being intellectually honest, through your experience in life. I had thinking to recent elections and some of the people elected and And again, talking about who I think really was running the Biden administration, which was a bunch of young activists, and behind the scenes. I remember a conversation I had with people in some young people in my family one holiday season when they were bemoaning, it might have been the Trump-Biden election, or I don't know what, where they were bemoaning how everybody was so old, who was running for office, and why couldn't we have somebody newer? And it kind of evolved for me into a conversation of, I don't know, do you want somebody that's actually had that 70 years of experience with a nuclear button, under his finger? Or do you want a 35-year-old that's had no life experience? And this kind of gets to, I think, the side conversation we're having here about wisdom and Bill Maher. And there is something to be said about wisdom and old age and time. And that's not just because I'm an old guy geezer.
Well, we
talking about these things, but it's true. It's true. I mean, I don't know if that's what it is for Bill Maher. If it's this different path in his life and where they brought him, every conversion story, involves experiences and truths that surprised you and shocked you that weren't necessarily easily obtained.
I saw a joke.
But I'm grateful.
I saw a joke that he made when he was super young. This was on Johnny Carson's show, right? So a long time ago. He's just a young comedian starting out. This popped up on social. I think it's because I was looking at this clip. And he's talking about how his father is Catholic and his mother is Jewish, right? And he's like, but I was raised Catholic. And I was not raised Jewish.
Well, that explains a lot. He's got good roots.
I knew you'd be happy to hear that.
Maybe.
Who knows?
But
But he's like, but the Jewish side still comes out. So he's like, like when I go to confession, I take my lawyer with me.
That was his early,
super early, like 80s. Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's a very funny joke. Like it made me, and it was on Johnny Carson's show. But yeah, I think what I think is I think being a classic liberal and being always open to conversation and willing to talk to anybody, because he's famously complained about how he invites the Democrats, they just don't want to come on the show, right? Like people were like, why don't you have Kamala on? He's like, how many times I invited her, she won't come on.
Right.
Why don't you have Biden on? He said every time we invite the Republicans, they show up.
Yeah.
And you see that part of it, and you wonder how much of that sort of being willing to engage has had an impact. And you look at the sort of the modern left, the Blue Hair Brigade, and they can't handle it. They cannot handle the conversation because words are violence to them.
Yeah, you're right. You're onto something there. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm grateful for him for drawing attention to this. I don't know where it will end.
But we will ask you to pray for the Christians, the persecuted church, and the Christians all around the world who are
absolutely.
China's throwing pastors in jail.
And in many ways, I find comfort as a Christian. This is nothing new.
All right.
There have been martyrs throughout time.
Yeah.
But boy, it does kind of catch your modern sensibilities, because we have that. We have, even those of us I think are a little more sensitive to this, we still have a vestige of, we're much wiser than the people in the past. We're still killing people?
The chronological snobbery of our times.
Chronological snobbery. You've alluded to that.
Yeah, C.S. Lewis.
Is that C.S. Lewis? That's exactly it. Every generation has some degree of that. Yeah. I think some of us are more aware of it. So I think that's what, even though it's true, and not just Christianity, but other people, throughout history, and have always had, periods of suffering and martyrdom and whatnot. So in some ways it shouldn't surprise us, but it does, because we think that chronological snobbery, like
we're better than
the 21st century, we should not be still struggling with these issues. But we are.
We are.
There's still people fighting for freedom around the globe, for free speech.
Mm-hmm. The brutality is just as bad as it was, and I know the one example everybody loves to talk about is the Crusades. Just please study some history, read what started the Crusades.
I mean, I think I've seen, and again, the population is larger, so you would kind of expect this, but I think even if you did it as in terms of percentages, I think you'd find the same would hold true. There was more Christians killed in the last century, I think, than the previous 19.
Yeah, I believe it. Absolutely.
It's a crazy statistic. So.
And that really offends your modern sensibilities.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyway, thank you, Bill Maher.
Yeah.
And others. I did have, I posted something about this, but I was so excited that the current administration is at least, he has some powerful things to say.
Yeah. God bless Marco Rubio. I'll tell you that.
Well, for sure. I think he definitely, a lot of people are talking already about, his impact as a Secretary of State. So no doubt he has a hand in all this, which is great. And by the way, whether it's also the turning attention to our hemisphere, praise God, we have a president that, I know this is off topic. Maybe we can do a whole show on this in the future, and I'm sorry, I know we're kind of up against time, but the thought entered my mind about some of the criticism about shooting the drug runners, the narco traffickers in their boats, and about, what kind of congressional approval but do you know how many decades we have killed whenever we thought it necessary? Terrorists in the Somalia boot camps or anywhere over in the Middle East. Nobody questioned whether we needed permission to kill known leaders of terrorist organizations. So
Barack Obama took out a terrorist, right?
Every 6 minutes, I think he dropped a bomb. They took how many, during his, but again, it's back to the double standards and the hypocrisy. But that aside, nobody ever questioned, So really all it means is you don't see the narco problem as big of a killer or problem as terrorists, because it's okay to bomb them over there if they're terrorists, but not on the high seas in the Caribbean and the Pacific if they're narco terrorists who are probably killing more Americans.
Would you say that the fentanyl problem has affected the blue collar middle class way more than the elites?
For sure. Yeah.
Would you say that that's one of the reasons why this is such a angst causing phenomenon amongst them?
Sure.
Because they haven't been affected by it.
Anyway, I know we're working a little over time. I love this about this administration.
Yeah.
That wherever it's necessary, he's willing to draw attention.
And
whether it's killing Christians, whether it's killing Christians in Nigeria, or whether it's protecting Americans from the drug trafficking, we have paid lip service to the drug war for so many years and decades. You finally have a leader.
Did nothing.
You finally have a leader that's doing more than lip service.
Yep.
He's actually putting his money where our mouth has been for decades and decades and decades. We talk like it was a threat, but this president is saying it is a threat.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I was just so glad to hear him come out and speak so forcefully as he did about Nigeria. Better get this problem fixed.
Yeah.
Or we're going to step in. We're not going to sit silently while hundreds of thousands of people are slaughtered and murdered.
Yeah.
And look, I think this man has proved himself as being a peacemaker. He wants nothing less than any kind of a war or more destruction and more life killing. But are we going to sit by?
Yeah. He's gonna stand up and try and protect those that need protection.
So mark this day down. You tuned into The Obvious and you heard Bill Maher.
Bill Maher.
Right?
Yeah.
So any event.
And just pray for the Christians of Nigeria.
Amen. All right. Sorry for the heavy topic, but you can always count on us to talk about the obvious issues of our day.
Yep.
So until next time.
Thank you for joining us.